Um,
All
so,
right.
hey, Tamsin.
Hey, Mark, how are you, love?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here with you. We have this workshop coming up, and it sort of struck me. We're like doing all these recordings and videos, and they're scripted, and they're like, how many times has this happened to you? And it sounds very like Dan Aykroyd on Saturday Night Live. And I just wanted to like have a chat about why I don't know why we're even doing this. What's exciting for people who are coming to this workshop. Now you talk.
So I'm hearing us live reverberating. Can you picking that up too?
No, but you can mute the other tab where it's like
Okay,
mute the LinkedIn tab where it's
that's what it
doubling.
is. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So
So
I
now that you're no longer
am.
hearing voices in your head,
I'm not. I know. Yeah, I'm hearing voices in my head, and it's making me feel like I'm a crazy person. So no, this is lovely. So we met a couple of years ago, and I think what was fun when we connected was that we had a lot of overlaps in the way we thought and what we felt about the world and what was important to us. And the more we got to know each other when I moved, it was this sort of next step between creativity, and we're always trying to write and think and create juicy content for our people and um, create impact, right? Because this is why we're doing this stuff, because we want to create impact. But one of the sort of funny things about creativity, I think, is that there are all of these books, like all of these people write juicy books and come up with ways of thinking about creativity. And there always seems to be this like sort of tangent kind of dance around waiting for the muse, right? Versus creating a repeatable habit around accessing, getting into your creativity, producing something that people love, right?
yeah, it's funny. Every time I'm on a chat with you, if I don't have my headphones in and you say the word juicy, my wife always kind of looks over because we have this thing about the word juicy, but we're gonna let it ride. Um, yeah, I mean the thing is like so as I say on our landing page, there are so many books, and we've read so many of the books, and lots of people have read so many of the books. And the thing that I'm just so clear on, having worked with so many people, um, is that the habits or the methods or the routines or whatever that the 7-figure people and highly successful blah blah blah, like they may not be yours.
Hmm.
You may not want those same routines. You may not want those same results. Um, I'm working with a lot of people right now. So the people who, if you're thinking about coming to this workshop, something that I'm really excited for people to get is some tools for, from my end of the things, like some tools, some creative tools to actually discover these habits. But it's less about like what are the good habits. It's more like what do I actually want, um,
Mm.
and getting habits that actually support that, and using the creative tools that I use and the habit science that you come with to create something really powerful for somebody. Like you said, like I would expect someone to come to this workshop and feel a real impact on their life, hopefully right away. This happens a lot. I mean, as you know, as a coach as well, like when you meet with someone and they see something about themselves as different from the shoulds, right? Like I should be doing X, Y, and Z. It actually, not to say it becomes easy. Sometimes it becomes hard because you realize, oh my God, I don't actually want to be this thing that I've been working towards, or maybe I've been working towards it in a wrong way, or whatever. But it is kind of a relief.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that the shoulds, and particularly in the world we live with all of the social media right now, it like the shoulds become this really kind of negative impact. And I think for a lot of people, it creates inertia, it creates procrastination, or with artificial intelligence, some people turn to that in a way of like sort of releasing their creativity. And if they don't do that smartly, what I see is this sort of you're delegating something that for a lot of people is incredibly energizing and important and impactful. So I mean, for me, like I'm a verbal processor, but also that verbal processing also very much plays into me creating regular space to write. And
Mm,
when I
mm,
am in a regular writing habit, what that does for me is it allows me to kind of make sense of things that I've experienced, make sense of ideas that I've read, like the book that you gave me and that I'm currently rereading, the 4,000 Weeks book by Oliver Burke. You know, each time I reread something like that, I'm like, oh, this is a juicy concept. And giving myself the space to write regularly and creating a habit around the creative act for me of
yeah,
writing is really resourcing and like energizing and impactful for me, but also creates juicy content that my clients
yeah,
can be like, oh yeah, like I
right.
can use this, I can make sense of this, right?
Yeah, and I think, it's both a way to sort of separate yourself from the patterns of your life so you can see them in a new light. It's
Mm,
whatever those habits are tends to be the kinds of things that, put you in your right brain or default mode or whatever.
yeah.
But at the same time, what's so interesting is that it can be a pattern interrupt. So,
Mm,
maybe writing isn't your thing. Maybe even being a creative, as I've
mhm,
been, and many have, like, maybe that's not necessarily what you're wanting. Maybe you're building a business, or you're transitioning to, a new career or a new job or whatever. It's these creative tools that can also create a pattern interrupt,
mm,
which can be, here's the thing about change, right? Like, change is inevitable. It's happening outside. We see it in the world, and that's like big stuff. But also, the example that I love to use is, like, I woke up today and I'm a day older than I was yesterday. That's going to happen whether I try to, or not. So I can either sit around going, oh man, I didn't really want that, or I can look at that change and almost like sort of harness it and say, okay, if I'm aware that change is coming, how can I get to be more clear on what it is that I want in my life, my business, my relationships, and
mhm.
what habits will serve that. A writing habit might even serve some of those other things. The
Absolutely.
the writing habit that I created for myself, have created for myself, many different times, has served at different times my art, my coaching, and building businesses around both of those things.
Mm, mm. And I think the other point that you're making, which I think is really it's sort of pertinent to showing up for this workshop and what you and I as coaches, one, and as fellow ADHD travelers too, is is that you with your make a mess system and me with my, how to create a habit systems and coaching that I've done for years, is that we've both spent a lot of time in thinking about creating systems, coaching people, supporting people around chunking these things down, because sometimes the other thing about all of this stuff is that we have this idea, we want to create a writing habit, or we want to create a website or a blog, or we want to create a new collection of art, or whatever it is that we have this desire to create, but we're stuck enough that we actually can't think through the steps. And what you and I are doing here in this workshop is we're going, maybe you've got this really big juicy vision, but the actual, what is the first step, like how do I
Mm.
actually like step into this and make this happen? And what you and I've done by being in the mess ourselves, having to constantly think about this as having with ADHD, and like what are the steps here so I don't go off on a side quest or spend hours in a state of inaction, which is a feature of having ADHD, right? You and I, and then coaching people in the spaces that we've spent a lot of time thinking about, how do I chunk this so that we can support people in creating a sort of repeatable set of steps to
Yeah.
go, okay, how do I do this, right?
Yeah. So something, I mean, I might be putting you on the spot here, but listening to ourselves talk here, the question that I would have is, what could I as a participant expect to, to get, what's in it for me, right? Like, what do I, um, and I think about this in terms of Donald Miller's work with his
Mm,
story brand framework.
mhm.
What if someone were to come to this workshop? What is the transformation that they could expect? What could they expect to learn? How could they expect to grow?
So I think that what we're going to be doing is creating this brilliant nexus of the way that we think and coach and work together. So the first bit will be around helping people think through how to chunk and get into the energetic framework of taking the steps to make the mess to get into the creative action, right? Which is your bit.
Right.
And then,
spoiler, you may already be in the mess, but we'll
right, you may in this, right? But the process of going, okay, like I'm in this energetic creative state, right? And I'm sort of moving through it, and there are particular things that you are going to support them with, which I'm really excited to viscerally experience as well. And then with me, what you're going to get are some really concrete tools about making this something that you can continue to do after you've been sitting there with us and gone through this workshop. Because, you know, one of the things that I'm a big believer in is supporting people with tools and mindset and kind of practical ways of engaging so that you can keep going, you know, as it were, like when you're out of the room. Like I taught yoga for years, and the way that I would sort of think about it was, all right, off the mat, what are you going to do? Right? Like it's great, you're right here in this room on this mat doing stuff. When you get off the mat and into the world, how are you going to take this practice, this understanding of the way your mind and body communicates, the understanding of your limitations, the understandings of your expectations, the understandings of your relationship between breath, mind, body, other people, etc., off the mat and into the world? And so I think what we're going to be doing here is creating a space where people are going to be given concrete tools, time to play with these tools and kind of embody these tools, and then take them into their own lives and continue to work with them.
Yeah. And you mentioned, I mean, thank you. You mentioned the Make a Mess framework, and that's the thing that people will walk away with as well, is they'll walk away with a very clear idea of how, you know, the creative process, as I've worked with it over the last some number of years.
Decades.
Yeah. I'm not shy to talk about my age, and you and I are almost exactly the same age. But you know, what's interesting is like we're not only doing my own work, but in fact working with so many other people in the various, you know, sort of mentor, coach, teacher kind of roles. The process that people will walk away with is something that they can, as you said, it's not just about creating, you know, art or whatever, but it's about creating the things in your life. So I could imagine that someone is not even necessarily stuck. You know, I think sort of an ideal person, you know, if you're listening, to sort of to consider taking this course or this one-day workshop, is someone who feels like they might be at kind of, you know, an inflection point. You know, even if it's just sort of like, well, you know, I have this one person in my community who's sort of like, I'm doing fine, you know, and I've been doing it a while, and I know how to like keep this machine kind of running. I don't think that I want to wake up in 10 years and say that I've just been keeping this machine running. I feel like there's some sort of change, and I don't know what that is. So I think people who come to this, between the, as we like to say, the sort of the science and the soul in the room, I think what they'll get is tools to really not just examine that, but like you said, to say, okay, we're not just going to sort of like crack your brain and be like, okay, now good luck. But you know, you'll get tools to actually work with that after, should you choose to do so.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too that I think is really important here, because I struggled with this for a long time, is thinking about what it means, like what the word creative means and what it means to be a creative, right? You know, so I grew up in England, and the British system, you know, channels you very early. So at the age of 16, I went down the science track rather than the arts track, because I had to choose 3 subjects and I wanted to be more expert in one field than the other, right? So I went down the science track. So for many years in my head, I didn't think of myself as creative. Right. And in many ways, I was expressing my creativity with the way I dressed, or getting tattoos, or as a mom, like baking amazing cakes for my kids. Right. But I sort of didn't kind of conceptualize myself as creative. Right. And I think when I think about what it means to be a creative, it also includes problem solving. You know, there are so many different ways of thinking about creative, and like limiting it in my head to being just a professional artist or writer is the wrong way to think about it. So if you are thinking about coming to this workshop and you are somebody who either like had a great art, you know, habit as a kid, and you're thinking, my life would be markedly improved if I could create some energy around taking on a fun creative project that is not to necessarily make me money, but might just bring me and my family joy, right? That it's maybe planting a vegetable patch or redecorating a room in our house, right? That they're, you know, or somebody like me who my creativity and my business is around creating content that people can get excited about, right? So I think that's the other thing that I wanted to really make clear with coming on live here is that being a creative is not just limited to being somebody who makes a living by being a professional artist, right?
Yeah. And you point to that theory. I don't know if it's a theory, just this idea of connection, that not just, what do I mean by that? I see a lot of people, especially, people who are, focused and driven and maybe sort of doing what they should, or what, even not even necessarily anyone else told them, but what they feel like they should do. There's oftentimes sort of a separation between, their own personal world. So, you might be listening to this and going, well, I've got my work life, I've got my home life, I've got my social life, I've got my hobby life, whatever it is. And what I've seen is that when people start to connect, to realize that, it's all you. Spoiler, it is all you. And when, and when you realize that, like, the way you do anything is the way you do everything, but you can use that to your advantage. You can actually look at the ways that work for you. Like, maybe there's an area that's really working for you and you're struggling in another area, or you're pushing hard in another area, or you're imbalanced in another area, or whatever it is that you want. You can start to use what Tamsin is talking about to start to actually create some ease around making, the changes that you want, or seeing what changes you could make that you might get excited about. So, yes, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna talk about it. Anybody who knows me is gonna roll their eyes, but I love training jujitsu. I go every day. I'm going after this, and and it's right by your house. But you're not at your house right now. But there's, you know, for a while it was sort of like, okay, like I'm doing my creative work, and now I'm gonna go do my exercise work, and now I'm gonna work out. Now I have family time, whatever. But realizing that there's ways that I'd like to sort of be and feel and engage with those things. And when I started doing this work, this kind of work that you and I are talking about, I mean, I look back, not to say my life is perfect, but I look back at the way, my life was, say, even sort of pre-COVID, doing some of this stuff, and the way it is now. And I can say that the word I'm really feeling is that connection and integration. I don't feel like I'm trying to sort of juggle so many things. Yes, I'm doing a lot of things, but they feel like they're more in flow. And that's really what I want for people, is for people to feel,
Yeah.
I want many things for people in this workshop, but I want them to feel, or at least see, a way that they could find more flow in their
Yeah.
lives, which of
Yeah.
course makes everything easier,
Yeah.
including whatever kind of success that, you want to build, if you're a business
Yeah.
person or a creative person.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and part of what you're also just really acknowledging is that this concept of creativity and the sort of creative habit can be applied to literally any part of your life. And when you start reframing it that way, it creates, I mean, for me, it creates much more of a sense of joy and fun. Like, how can I bring that energy into everything that I do, right? So that, even things that might be considered tedious, if I can reframe them around the energy of creating a habit that is fun and juicy and flowy and amusing and joyful, or at least creates an experience for the people who are going through it that is in that energetic space, it becomes like a whole totally different thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah.
I'm also, is someone coming in here? Oh, hi. Give me a second. I'm on a live. I'm literally talking to people live. I'll come down in a second. I'm solo parenting today too. Well,
Gold
uh,
star.
yeah, I'm like, don't get on the screen. My daughter, she's 10. She's amazing. And if God, man, if you want to understand the Make Mess framework, go hang out with kids. But
That's another one of our odd little connections, is that I have an image of what her name means tattooed on me.
right.
It's so
Um,
funny, all these funny little connections we have. I love it.
but that's
Yeah.
why I'm also excited. I am excited to do this with you, because I think, I know a lot of coaches. I know a lot of executive coaches, business coaches, even some creative coaches, and um, they're not all that fun. No shade. Like, there's a lot of really great coaches out there who will get you like lots of different things. We're not the only two people in the world, but I love the energy that we have together and the
Yeah.
creativity we have together. I've seen us in a room with other people and able to sort of see things and draw people out in a way that feels really good. So I'm excited to be doing this with you.
Me too. I think we have good chemistry. It'll be fun. I think it'll be a fun time. So all of you sign up. Come play with me and Mark June 3rd, 12 noon Eastern. It's going to be about 90 minutes of us introducing these concepts and you getting to play and learn some juicy tools that you can take out of the Zoom room, off the mat, and into your lives, right?
And once I figure out what happened with these streams, I'll post the link.
Woohoo!
Tamzin, so good to see you. Enjoy the rest of your journey, and I'll see you back in Brooklyn.
That's right. I'll be back Tuesday night.
All right. Well, I'll see you maybe Wednesday morning for coffee.
Coffee.
All right. Thanks, everyone.